creativity has you thinking outside the box. It's your originality and adaptiveness, which can really help you when you're facing things like PTSD, anxiety, depression, which tends to narrow your aperture and give you tunnel vision. This character string specifically can help widen that and bring some new ideas to the table. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you counseling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Welcome back to Practical Solutions for PTSD. And today we are picking up on one of my absolute favorite topics of all time. When I was a master resilience trainer for the Army, I used to teach on character strengths 2-3 times a year, and I absolutely love this topic. It's one of my favorites because this is where you're taking how you were created and using it and developing it and leaning into that and making yourself the best version of what you can be. And one of the big things about this is you can use these strengths to help you combat things like PTSD, anxiety, depression, even seasonal affective disorder. You can lean into your strengths and have them help you combat all that kind of stuff because you've been gifted with some unique strengths that make you who you are. And so being able to develop those and use those to be able to help you in life can unlock some secret weapons for you that can work very effectively. So today we're going to be covering our very first topic, which is creativity. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But I want to encourage you to join our Facebook community if you haven't already. And the reason why is because there's some information I'll be sharing related to this topic on the Facebook community. And that's the only place you can get it other than through the newsletter email distribution. They'll be shared there as well. But if you go to Overcome Depression and Anxiety, use positive psychology to combat PTSD, that's our Facebook group. You can put in a request to join. We'll get you approved and set up. I have a list of the 24 character strengths pinned at the top, so you can download that and use that as a reference. And today I'm publishing a worksheet that you can use as we go through this, specifically designed for your signature strengths, which are your top 5. When you take the survey, it comes back with what your top 5 strengths are. And you can identify how you can use that specifically for PTSD, depression, anxiety, seasonal affective disorder, etc. I'm going to give you tips for each one of these strengths, and you can use this worksheet to write that down and capture it, and also how to avoid the dark side or where you get into where if you overuse it or use it in the wrong context. We'll talk about that as well. But I strongly encourage you to join the Facebook community because we have all of that there. We're going to be discussing that throughout the year, and that'll give you some additional information. And again, that's Overcome Depression and Anxiety. Use positive psychology to combat PTSD. So in addition to the information that you'll find on Facebook related to this series, you can also go back and catch the original episode, which is number 45. This is where we kicked off the series, Not Broken Equipped. And we talk about what the Values in Action Survey is. Also, if you would like to know what yours are and you haven't taken the survey yet, it is free. So you can go to viacharacter.org/character-strengths and take that survey. You can get those back, and it will make it a little bit easier to follow along. But some of it, you'll probably figure it out on your own. And one thing I want to say before I jump into today's character strength, which is creativity, super excited about it. And that is that as we're talking about this, or as you take the survey, you identify your signature strengths. Some of those you may feel like when you're dealing with PTSD, anxiety, depression, etc., that you've lost touch with certain aspects of your character or your personality. And trust me, I know that feeling. I'm actually thinking about having an episode on that where you feel like you've lost who you are. There are times when certain strengths may go into hibernation, and hibernation is my term, but there may be a time that you feel like you can't exactly reach it quite like you used to. In fact, I was talking to a listener last a couple weeks ago after she took the survey, and she was excited to see one of her character strengths still listed at the top because she thought she had forgotten how to do that. There are times when your system kind of protects itself and you don't have access to it right away, and that's okay. Don't feel stressed about it. When you've healed enough, you'll rediscover that, and it's okay. You'll get there when you need to. So don't stress about it. We're talking about this. This is not an assignment. We're not going to have a to-do list and a lot of homework. This is just a conversation to try to help you to identify some of your secret weapons that are there that you may not realize that you can tap in that will help you. All right, so all that out of the way, let's jump into creativity. So just a reminder, this is not a talent. We're talking about character strengths, so it's not talking about productivity. And even with creativity, we're not talking about originality for originality's sake. It's not something that you earn or something that you lose. It's simply the ability to see or respond in more than one way. So there's two essential components to creativity, and that is originality and adaptiveness. So for people who live with PTSD, anxiety, depression, seasonal depression, etc., the ability isn't about self-expression alone. It's often about survival, adaptation, and finding room to breathe when life feels too narrow. So being able to find new ways to express yourself or to adapt to your situation and to adjust so that you're able to take care of yourself a little bit better. So creativity at its core is thinking in new ways and seeing possibilities where others see limits. And this is something I really enjoy about having this character strength because it really does help you think outside the box and think of creative ways to approach things. In fact, I'll have friends come to me and talk to me about things and ask for my input because I can see different perspectives and new ways to attack a problem that they may not be thinking of because this is my character strength. So in positive psychology, creativity is described as the ability to generate novel and useful ideas. In everyday life, creativity can be quieter than that. It can be relational, much more so than that definition may suggest. So creativity is the moment when you realize, this plan isn't really working and I think I need a different one. Or this approach isn't quite fitting for me, so I need to try a different approach. It's a way that you adjust when your energy drops. It's like, I can't handle that, so let's try doing it this way over here, and you'll find a workaround. And you can invent those pretty easily, usually. And when the original path feels unsafe or inaccessible, or I can't do it that way, let's find a new way to do it. So from a trauma-informed perspective, creativity is not a luxury strength. This could be a way that you're regulating your system. So when the system feels trapped, creativity whispers, hey, there might be another way. Not a better way, not a perfect way, just another way. A different way to do this, because I can't handle what's going on right now. So in daily life, creativity often shows up without fanfare. It looks like problem solving when something goes sideways. It could be adapting plans or your body says no today. Like, I can't do this today, so let's find a new way to do this. Finding a new routine when the old one stopped working, and I've had to do this many, many times. Expressive hobbies like writing, drawing, cooking, music, gardening. Going through that list, and then there's a whole bunch more. I'm not much of a drawer. I can draw a little bit, but not very much. Writing, sometimes yes, sometimes no, depends. I love gardening. Gardening has been my safe haven these past few years. It's really been something that's fed my soul. I also, sometimes when I couldn't go any further and I felt like I just couldn't handle the stress and anxiety, sometimes adult coloring would really help me. Decorating my house, if I had enough energy to do it, didn't always have the energy, but when I did, that could be very soothing to me and very helpful because it was a way to be creative. Bringing creativity to the workplace. So how I put my slide presentations together when I was still working for the Army, and today how I do my newsletters, how I do various things, and using creativity to be able to do that. I'm in the process of building my website right now to go with this podcast, and using a creative flair with some of that can also be very helpful and taps right into this, and it kind of feeds my soul and helps me handle the stress and anxiety of what's going on. But creativity can also show up internally. And it's the way that you narrate your own experience, and you're using compassion instead of criticism because you can look at it from a different perspective. It's choosing a different response when your first reaction was driven by fear. So you can say, okay, that time I did that the wrong way and I was afraid, but is there a way that I can handle this with peace and with calm? You can use this strength to let yourself rest without labeling rest as a failure. Understanding that rest is a time of restoration and building strength and energy. It's not a waste of time. It's actually what enables you to accomplish what you do because you've taken time to rest. So, for people with anxiety or PTSD, creativity might look like finding grounding tools that actually work for you, not quote what you should use or what's common, but what works for you. And so you can actually see how my character strength of creativity actually drives this entire podcast, because it's practical solutions for PTSD, helping you to form tools to build a toolkit that works for you. It may not be something I would use, but if it's working for you, that's what I try to help you discover and to put together in our coaching sessions and on this podcast. So that's where my character strength in that sense is coming to work with me behind this mic and when I work with you one-on-one. So for seasonal depression, creativity often becomes a way to gently engage in the world again without demanding energy you don't have. So when I don't have the energy to take my dog for a walk, is there a creative way that I can exercise him in the house where he still gets the exercise that he needs without me going outside when I just am not able to do that? Now, as I mentioned in the very first episode, in the introductory episode, when we talked about every single character strength, as awesome and amazing as it is, every one of them have a dark side. And what I mean by that is when you overuse it, or you use it in the wrong context, or you don't contain it and discipline it and focus it in the right direction. So when it comes to creativity, and trust me, I have faced all of this, you can get where you're overthinking things, or you're mentally spinning, or there's so many ideas you don't know where to land, or the pressure is always to innovate and figure it out. And oh my goodness, I'm just like, yes, 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 yes. Every one of these I have dealt with. Sometimes the fact that I'm creative and adaptive can work against me, because it's harder for me to get into a routine that I can stick with, because I'm always like, well, I've been doing this for a while. Is there a better way to do it? Is there a different way to do that? I'm kind of bored. Let's do this over here. And so it can get me a little bit too adaptive, or I'm looking at all these possibilities for what I could do, and I get so overwhelmed I get shut down because I can't nail one down. I'm thinking of like 20 different ways I could do this one single thing, and it's hard for me to find one that I can just land on and do. That would be some of the dark side of creativity, because it can get you spinning a little bit too far. So if you're a trauma survivor, this can look like hypervigilance in disguise. So you're constantly scanning for alternatives. You're constantly planning exit routes. You're constantly imagining the worst case scenario. For people with anxiety, creativity can fuel catastrophic thinking. The brain, our brain is super, super good at inventing possibilities, and not all of them are very helpful. For depression, creativity can feel inaccessible, which can then lead to shame. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes our character strengths can hibernate for a bit. And so when you're not able to access it, you can feel like, oh man, this is what I used to be. I used to be so creative, and now I can't. What's wrong with me? How come I can't do this? Am I broken somewhere? So creativity doesn't disappear when you're struggling. And this is true with all of your character strengths. It might go underground. It might hibernate for a while to conserve energy because you don't have the energy to tap into that right now. But this is not a failure. This is where your body is helping you to protect you and giving you the resources that you need, focusing those on healing as opposed to being creative. And there have been times, as much as I love creativity and as much as it helps me and heals me, there have been times I did not have the emotional energy to do it, and I really couldn't access it very well. Or if I did, it would really drain me. So this is very true. If you're too drained or too far too low, sometimes your character strengths, you're not going to be able to access them right away. So let's look at this specifically and how you can use this character strength to support you if you have PTSD, anxiety, or depression. How can I use this character strength specifically to help me combat that? So for PTSD, creativity restores a sense of agency. It helps you to be able to feel like you are impacting your surroundings. Trauma has a way of narrowing your options down, narrowing that aperture where you feel like all you can see is the trauma. Creativity begins to widen that a little bit. Even just a little tiny bit, it can help. It reminds the brain that the present moment is not the past and that you're allowed to choose new responses. It helps you to be able to learn new ways of handling things and to open your mind to that, because that creativity, looking for originality or for adaptiveness, will help lead to that. If you're dealing with anxiety, creativity can help interrupt rigid thought loops. So instead of, this is the only outcome, this is the only outcome, this is what's going to happen every time, this is what's going to happen, creativity is like, oh, wait. Let's be a little flexible here. Outside the box thinking, adaptiveness, originality. Something else could happen. It could be totally different this time than it was last time. And so it gives the nervous system some room to settle because there's a possibility for new outcomes. For depression, especially seasonal depression, creativity offers engagement without pressure. And this is where I mentioned before, decorating, gardening, adult coloring, all these are very helpful for me. Stories as well, because it's, creativity within the story and my imagination, and be able to tap into that can be very helpful. You don't have to be motivated first. In fact, sometimes creativity can be the motivation itself. It can be the spark and not the result. So it can get you headed in the right direction if you just lean into that a little bit and find a way to make it work for you. And there's more than one way to be creative. So if you don't have the energy to, like for me, if I didn't have the energy to decorate the house, maybe I'd have the energy to do some adult coloring. If I didn't have the energy for adult coloring, maybe I could at least listen to a good story. And trying to find things like, I had to work, I had to bring home a paycheck, right? So is there a way that I can bring creativity to that to help me while I'm doing what I absolutely have to do? Is there a way I can adapt that and make it work? So creativity tells the nervous system we're not trapped. Even if the situation hasn't changed, our relationship to the situation can change. We can, find a new perspective, a new way of looking at this, adapting to it and making it work for us instead of against us. So another key about character strengths is you can develop them. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. And this will work both if creativity is your signature strength or if it's something that you would like to develop. These are some tips on how to do that. And this isn't something, like I said earlier, this is not like a big homework assignment you have to take home and try to figure this out. We're just having a conversation here. And these are some ways that you can take home and think about and see if there's something that can help you. To be able to bring creativity either back into your life a little bit or to increase that a little bit and help you a little, to use it specifically to help with the whole trauma thing. So set some playful constraints, and this will help you to avoid the dark side of creativity. Because you're not just thinking limitlessly, you can put some constraints on that, because too much freedom can be overwhelming to the nervous system. As I mentioned earlier, when you think about 20 different ways to do something, it's hard to land on one and actually move out and get it done. So trying some small containers. So maybe for 5 minutes you brainstorm on whatever. Or you look at how to use one color. Instead of giving you the entire palette that you can do whatever you want to, just try one color or work with one idea. So this can provide some safety and some boundaries with creativity that can make it feel a little bit safer. So you're not just like floating around in the ether somewhere. You've got some fences and boundaries in that to try to help you out. Idea number 2, how to develop it, is to keep an idea notebook without expectations. Now, this is something I have to be honest, I use this sometimes and I don't use it sometimes, but I have found when I do use it, it's helpful. You don't have to try to remember everything that you're thinking about if you write it down. And my mother, when she hears this, is going to be going, I told you so. She's been telling me for years, Lori, write the stuff down. You don't have to try to remember it. I've never been a big list person, but this is one way that, writing down ideas, I don't have to try to remember everything I'm thinking of, which will take some of the stress off. I don't necessarily have to act on them right away. It's just to be able to store them, to keep them captured in one spot so I can go back when I want to be able to pull those out. And this lets the brain know it doesn't have to hold on to everything at once, and it can decrease the stress level. Idea number 3 for developing that is to allow imperfect creation. Now, this is something I have actively worked on for years because I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so it's hard sometimes to let go of something until it's perfect. And then I hear my very first boss working for the Army told me, Lori, sometimes 80% is good enough. And understanding that if I hold on to it until it's perfect, I'll never let it go and will never get benefit out of that. So sometimes 80% is good enough. And then I had another boss tell me, sometimes failure is an option, which is another thing I had to get used to. But understanding that sometimes failure actually teaches you what you need to know to move forward. So letting things go and moving forward with that, allowing imperfection, is a really good way to take the stress and pressure off of creativity, because you can be free to create without having to worry about it being perfect. And if you remove it has to be perfect from the outcome, it takes some of that pressure off. So you don't have to finish it or share it or improve anything. You could just be creative. And if it comes to the place that later you do want to share it or finish it or whatever, you can, but you don't have to in that moment. Idea number 4, let creativity serve as regulation, not a result. And this is one way that both gardening and adult coloring have helped me with this. I didn't necessarily have to have a perfect result. Now, gardening somewhat, yes, because you're trying to grow things and there is a result in that. But if I wanted to move a pot around or, the plant ended up dying or changing something, that was okay. This was also the same with adult coloring. If the picture didn't turn out right or whatever, it didn't matter. It was the process itself was regulating to my system. And understanding that I'm not after an end result with the creativity necessarily. I mean, sometimes yes, but it can be no as well. It doesn't have to have a result at the other end. I can just be creative as a way to try to regulate my system, to bring that stress level down, to bring that anxiety down, to try to help me break free from depression. Being creative in that moment can really help with that. So it's not something you perform. It's something that you use. Creativity isn't a performance. It's something that you're using to help you to be able to regulate your nervous system and also to solve problems. A creative way to do that, to open that aperture a little bit, to find out there's other ways to do things. So as we wrap up here today, remember that creativity isn't about being original just for the sake of being original. It's about being responsive. It's the strength that says I can meet this moment differently than I did before and come up with a different response or a different result. Sometimes that difference is as small as choosing gentleness over force. If creativity feels distant right now, if it feels like it's gone into hibernation, it doesn't mean it's gone. It may simply be resting for you for a little bit, and that's okay. So one thing to think of as we wrap up today is, where in your life are you already adaptive? Even quietly. Doesn't have to be a huge fanfare thing. But where are you adapting right now? And that might be the character strength of creativity at work in your life today. A quick reminder that you can go to our Facebook page, Overcome Depression and Anxiety, use positive psychology to combat PTSD, and you will find more information as well as some tools to help you on this topic. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.